Welcome to the Seat 14 podcast, a different perspective on college basketball told by those who lived it. Join us as we bring you insider views, analysis, breakdowns, and predictions from one of the most storied programs in the country, from someone who saw it all from the end of the bench, the 14th seat. In association with the Field of 68 and alongside producer Jordan Barber, I'm your host, Todd Lanter, and this is Seat 14. Welcome in to episode 10 of Seat 14. Today is Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. We have a jam-packed show today. It's actually Monday night that we're recording this, so we got the Rams-Cardinals game on, muted over here. We are enjoying our William Tarr RD1 Spirits sponsorship here. I also got my Liquid IV.
Shouts out. I appear to have enjoyed the
You already enjoyed, dude. You're welcome to get you a little extra pour here. We got a jam-packed show tonight, though. We're coming off of a 28-point win over Tennessee at home. Phenomenal stomp down. It's the first time anybody has put 100 on Rick Barnes' team, Rick Barnes' team. Phenomenal performance, just very widespread across the stat sheet. So many contributors all the way down the depth chart in this one. Phenomenal performance, and just, we're at the point in the season where we're trying to do what we can to build on every game, win or lose. And this was just, it's tough to find some holes in this one.
Second nationally, LSU is first. Mm-hmm. They're second.
Second adjusted defensive percentage. Second in the country. Yeah. And we put 107 points on them. They scored.
Kind of makes the LSU game that much more baffling, but at the same time, you don't have two of your best
this
players.
This game was Saturday. On Tuesday, that Tennessee team allowed 46 points from South Carolina.
Wow.
And we put 107 points on their head.
Yeah.
That is.
You were there. What was there something in the building that night?
It was rocking, man.
Joe B?
It was rocking. Joe B was a big part of it. I was going to get to that, but obviously, suffering the loss of Coach Joe B. Hall, who my dad played for. I had Jack Goose Givens come on the ESPN pregame and postgame show to talk about that. Chris Gettelfinger was there as well, who was on that team, or a couple of those teams for Joe B. All spoke extremely highly of him. There was just some very cool stories to hear, but a phenomenal basketball coach that did a lot for this program. And Cal did a phenomenal job of bringing him back into the fold when he got here. He's one of the first calls that Cal made when he took the job. And it was less about, and Jack made this point as well, but it was less about what Coach Hall could teach Cal as far as like on the court X's and O's. And it was a lot more about, just what this town, what basketball means to this town, what the rivalries mean, what the community means. And he did a lot to, educate Cal on what it means to be a Kentuckian and represent this program in the Bluegrass State, and just a phenomenal person who. So go ahead.
As a younger fan, obviously most of my time with Kentucky basketball is the Calipari era. I barely even remember one Billy Clyde Gillespie. So
you don't remember Tubby, really?
No.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. So I want to know from you as someone, and I know you weren't alive back then, but you've been around, you've talked to a lot of guys who knew Joe personally, who have been in touch with this community and the basketball community. So just tell us, like, what made Joe B so special?
From
what you've heard.
So, I grew up learning the game from my father, who played at UK as well. I was personal friends with, or family friends with, Jack Givens and Kyle Macy and Sam Bowie and all these guys that were, huge names in basketball in the state of Kentucky. Sam Bowie in particular picked over Jordan in the draft. Just things that I don't want to say took for granted, but didn't understand at the time, what those relationships meant, who those guys were to this program. And all those guys played under Joe B's tutelage, and the rocking sentiment. And, I hope this comes across in the correct way, but none of them were friends with Joe B when they played for him. They all didn't like him, really. Yeah. He was a grueling, hold you accountable, build you or break you down to build you back up type of coach. It's tough to deal with egotistical 18-year-olds when your mentality is that. And that's what made him so good. He didn't want to be your friend. He wanted to be your coach. His livelihood, just like Cal's and every other coach in college basketball, is dependent on a bunch of 18-year-old jackasses listening to you and performing. And that's, you got to feed your family. And coaches have different mentalities. They have different approaches. Joe B's was that of, we're going to do it my way. And it sometimes is, you're going to deal with egotistical college guys that are all, what's the word I'm looking for? Gung ho mentalities. And they're not always going to agree, or see eye to eye. But the one sentiment that rang true through, everybody as they got older, is they recognized what Joe B was trying to instill in them. That work ethic, that standard to hold yourself to, is not only a basketball player but a man. And every single one of them was able to develop a phenomenal relationship with him as they came back into the fold after going on and advancing through their collegiate and professional dreams, and coming back and really having that fellowship time with him to understand what it is he was after. We talked about this a lot with Tubby as well during his retirement, or his jersey retirement. I'm sorry. Getting it hung in Rep Arena. That I'm close friends with a lot of those guys too. Cameron Mills in particular mentioned some things about that. Wayne Turner, who I've talked with about this. They weren't friends with them at the time. Tubby, even though Tubby was a very father figure to them even when they were here, but his number one goal was to educate and raise men. It's you're not I wasn't best friends with my dad growing up for the same reason. He's going to hold me accountable, challenge me, push me to be better. And, you're going to butt heads, and that's good. That's healthy. That's part of it. But for them to come back and recognize what he was trying to instill in them, and hold them to that higher standard for themselves. And, it's really, really cool to see, the relationships that have developed in recent years, with what's now 60-year-old grown men and their coach that passed away at 93.
Yeah, I think it's clear that his players understood, and he understood that while sure maybe you're not going to like me now, you're going to love me later.
Yeah, and
and
that was his again,
that'll be his legacy.
His legacy will live on for a very, very long time, and he's part of the reason that this program is what it is today. A big part of it, a big reason. But it's prayers to his family, and those that played for him. But it was more the vibe I got this weekend, and being around a lot of those guys who came back to town, wasn't a somber. It's obviously the loss of human life is saddening, but it was a celebration of his life rather. And guys getting together and telling stories, and just the fellowshipping and the reminiscing of the lessons that they learned through that process of playing for him was something very cool that you can't really replicate outside of sports. And that's part of what makes this game so cool and brings people together. One of our guests tonight, Jarrod Polson, and I have played together and have a bond that I won't share with people that I didn't go through those things with. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of stories to share as our years continue to age, and we get to the point of some of these players that are coming back and reminiscing on what that meant to them at that time in their lives. And it's just very cool to witness and to kind of have had a front row seat to.
Agreed, even though I wasn't there.
Well, again, prayers up to his family. But we are going to take a break and hear from Bet Rivers. And when we come back, we will be joined by one Jarrod Polson, who who we will have some stories with, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper to this Tennessee game and see, what lies ahead for the Cats, what we think this roster is capable of doing, and kind of the way that Cal's approaching coaching this team. It's a little bit of a different challenge for him that he hasn't quite seen, in that we've got a little bit of an older locker room for mentorship and extensions of the coaching staff, like we always love to talk about, but they're all transfers. So we're going to talk to Jarrod a little bit about what that kind of means for our outlook on the rest of the season. So we're going to take a break here from Bet Rivers, and we'll be right back. Let me take a second to tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart, though, is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back to Seat 14. We now welcome in one of my great friends and teammates who I don't get to see very much of these days because he is a father of two very young children. But welcome in Jarrod Polson. Jarrod, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
Glad to be on. Appreciate you reaching out. And it has been too long, Todd.
It has. We need to get together. But COVID, I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's a worldwide pandemic going on, if you weren't aware.
Really?
That's
I'm not familiar.
It's limiting our ability to interact normally. So I hope we can get through this. I know you're recovering. Are you feeling better?
Feeling better, yeah. I didn't have a terrible case, but the whole fam went through it.
Yeah,
we've gone through it twice already, so I think we're done. I think 2 times is the limit. That's what I've been told.
There you go. You're good. You're immune at this point.
We've hit our quota.
You are the variant.
We are. Yeah, it might be our name as the variant.
No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for coming on. We've been trying to get together for a while. Jarrod's been, one of the most recognizable guys around the program in town for a number of years now, and you've been out, what, 10? No, 8?
2014. 8. So what's this year?
22. 8 years.
Yeah, about 8 years.
This year. Have you started to notice, like I have, that the guys like keep looking more and more baby faced?
A little bit, yeah.
I feel like, I don't know.
Ty especially has big time baby face.
Brandon Boston last year looked that way to me, just like very, very young, and I was like, man, I didn't feel like our guys, even as freshmen coming in, that they looked that baby faced. But obviously, still some monsters out there on the floor. So with that being said,
I want to say real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm turning 23 this April.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm officially at that point in my age where I'm older than pretty much all of our players, and that's not a good feeling.
It was a weird thing for me, I'm sure for Jarrod as well, when one year, like, all of a sudden we just didn't have any overlap with anybody that was on the team anymore. My last guy was like, I guess EJ or Brad. I guess Brad's kind of there now, but still, very odd feeling to age out. But either way, all right, we're coming off. We're going to talk about this absolute stomping that we put down on the Vols this past weekend. I know you got to watch that game and have some opinions on it, but first I want to start with the unique experience that you had, which we talk about all the time at UK, is that you had both young classes where freshmen were the predominant Minutemen, but also had the elders, if you will, in the locker room. The Darius year with 2012. A couple guys transferred in that were able to be an extension of the coaching staff on the floor. So before we get into this year's team specifically, tell me a little bit about what you think that does as far as not only, the obvious experience out on the court, but more so, the way that the freshmen can kind of lean on that older class to see, what is it Cal expects of you, day in and day out, even in the practice, even in the practice gym, even if it's not necessarily translating onto the floor, that locker room feel that we can kind of pass along to the younger generation.
Yeah. I mean, I think experience is the big thing. I mean, you nailed it. I feel like it just kind of brings like a calming presence too, because I feel like people see, especially at UK, just like the one and done stuff. And, you think of 18-year-old and 19-year-olds when you see them on the court as like grown men, but we know, like, man, coming out of high school, you're still a pretty young pup.
Oh yeah.
So brand new experiences. I mean, just living away from your family for the first time ever. Like, there's just the whole thing, like even outside of basketball that, these freshmen go through. So to have someone like a Darius Miller, like you mentioned, and this year more so like transfers from other schools, but even then they still got that college experience. I think the grind is also the big thing. Like they know the grind, the up and downs of it. High school, there's the grind to an extent, but you come to UK and it's a different grind. It, Todd.
Yeah.
So I think just being able to be with them in the ups and downs, because a lot of times it's kind of the first time on the basketball court these guys have hit like any sort of adversity.
Oh yeah.
The man for their whole lives, and then it's like, oh, I'm playing against guys that are just as good as me.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it that goes into it, but.
I use the reference a lot that like many of them haven't even had to sit in a stance for a shot clock or dealt with a shot clock in general when they get here. And I go back to one of the cool moments for me, which I'm sure you have plenty of similar experiences. When Julius Randle got here, we were doing summer workouts, and I remember running. I think we were running 17s. I can't remember exactly what the drill was, but Julius pulled me aside and was like, what does he want from me? And he wasn't asking, how do I complete this run effectively? He's asking like, how is he, what is it that he's after when he's grinding on me, when he's coaching on me like this, and kind of pushing me and holding me to a higher standard. Because that's what leaders need to know. And I go back to that and I reference that because I obviously wasn't the guy out there playing minutes. That he wasn't asking me, how do I perform? He was asking me, how do I become what Cal needs me to be in order to kind of drag my teammates along. So that was a cool moment for me. And I used that again and go back to this year's team. You said it. There's a lot of transfers. We got Severe Wheeler, who's played, I think 2 years in the SEC with Georgia before this. And then, Oscar, who's had 2 years at West Virginia, who's, clearly struggling in many ways this year, obviously being the front runner for Player of the Year possibly. And then you got Kellen Grady, who was a 2,000-point man at Davidson, who's now, finding his way and earning the reputable status that he deserves at a major school. And that is the people that are leaning on these freshmen. So Ty, for example, is able to step in here as one of the highly touted freshmen in the draft class this year, and pretty much has no pressure to perform day in and day out. And he's been able to almost skirt by, which sounds silly, but he's got a couple 17 point, 20-point outings, had a 17-point assist where he took John Wall's record from him, and pretty much gone like flown under the radar. And we're taking for granted his ability to perform and put stats on the sheet because he's able to play so effortlessly. He doesn't have the eyes on him that a lot of these freshmen do sometimes, because he's got this supporting cast that's able to draw a lot of the focus, even defensively. So, I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to speak a little bit on that. Like how comforting is it to know that you've got those other guys that are out there, bearing the brunt of a lot of the media that are, vetted. And then one other point that I wanted to kind of leave you with to rant on for a second. If you're a guy like Kellen Grady or even Ty, and you're catching the ball in the corner and you're looking for a shot within the offense, right? And you know that there's a 25% chance that if you miss it, Oscar is going to get the rebound and give you another possession. It becomes a little bit easier to knock that shot down, or at least step up and take it with confidence.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points you just made. And I already forgot the first point.
No, I pretty much gave you no direction, just hung you out to dry.
He tends to do that.
I do that. I get my brain.
I don't know what else you want from me. I do agree with you. I think I think when you look at a guy like BJ Boston last year, I think he would have really benefited from a team like this year, because like we had to have him. Like he knew that he was our star last year. A lot of times he didn't play like it, but now that we've seen him in the NBA, like, wow, he's actually a good player. I think there was just too much weight on him last year. And you see, and even like the year I guess my junior year, the NIT year, the year we don't like to remember, it was like Archie and Alex, and then before Nerlens got hurt, like the supporting cast on that team wasn't as great as it is this year. And so Archie struggled a little bit more than, we saw him. He's probably still having a great career. I saw him in that summer. What's the summer tournament called?
The TBT.
The TBT. Yeah, he's killing it there. So I think you're right. Like, having Severe run the offense, Oscar boarding every missed shot on the offensive end. Like, Ty can just go out and ball. Kind of reminds me of almost like a D Lamb 2012 year. Like, I'm not comparing the two, but D Lamb could just go do his thing. He didn't have much pressure, really. He didn't have to be the ball handler. He had Anthony Davis down low, but he could just do his thing, and he was great. Shot 50% three. Like, when there's not so much pressure, you can just go out and ball. Yeah,
you bring up a good point that I'll kind of ride with for a second. Archie Goodwin, right? Archie got a bad rap. Unfair rap, I should say, with the fan base here, because he was playing so out of position. He was being asked to do things that he really wasn't recruited or I don't want to say capable, but weren't fitting to his game when he was here. We had Ryan, and we had a guy like yourself coming in and running the point. And many times when we would change lineups and Archie would have to slide to the point, he was he's capable of handling the ball, but he's not able to be effective as the slasher that he was recruited to be and who he ultimately is as a professional. And so he's being judged both by, those that are going to draft him, the sports media and the fan base, struggling in these ways that he was being exposed because he was being asked to do things that he wasn't necessarily ready to be doing, especially on a stage under the microscope that you have to deal with at a school like Kentucky. But again, Ty isn't being asked to do those things. Even James Young, who struggled in a lot of ways, wasn't being asked to do the things that Archie was being asked to do. That stuff goes a long way, especially at 18 years old, when you're trying to figure out who you are as a player. And one thing I talk about all the time is how good of a job Cal does at finding those 2 or 3 things that you're expected to perform well at, right? For instance, we talk about Book, right? Book was, a spot-up shooter, maybe got to a 1 or 2 dribble pull-up, but for the most part was limited in his capacity offensively to those 2 or 3 things that Cal wanted from him. The same thing with Karl Towns, where he was pretty much stuck in the paint to go over his right or left shoulder. Very, very little limited ability to step out on the floor. And that's not because Cal knows that he's not capable of doing that. It's because he knows that putting him in those positions is what's best and most effective for our team to win. And when you have a situation like we did that NIT year, where we were a little bit limited in depth, and we had to have those guys step into different roles, you can see sometimes they're not ready to do that. And that just kind of goes to backing our point about how fantastic Cal is at that ego management and putting you in a position to be successful.
You look at the tweak of 2014 run when Aaron Harrison, everyone's like, what was the tweak? I always tell people it was 2 things. He told Andrew Harrison, focus on assists. Don't try to finish shots. You go be a distributor. And then he told Julius Randle, quit trying to take the ball down the hole every time. Just go be a rebounder. And that, to my memory, that was the tweak.
That was the tweak.
I don't think there's really much more than that.
Yeah.
And we made that run. So it's like, it goes to your point. He said, hey, you 2 are freshmen. Andrew, you focus on assists. Julius, you be a garbage man. And look what happened. Yeah, get back to what you're good at. And, a lot of those things are protecting, our guys from trying to kind of overperform. Like you said, they're the guy in high school, right? They're supposed to go out and put up 30 points. They don't have to play defense. They can take a possession off. At this level, you can't do that. We've seen the struggles and the losses that incur when you take a possession off at the wrong time, and he needed those guys to be able to be confident in what they're being asked to do, and therefore effective, and that's what's going to help our team win. Do you have a point you wanted to make?
Sure.
You seem to kind of I thought you were waiting to just.
Yeah, well, I've been glancing at this Monday night game over here.
This is a basketball podcast.
You're right. You're right. I love watching football. Jarrod, back me up on this.
I'm a big football guy. I did look at the score before. Looks like the Rams are up 7-0. Anyways, back to basketball.
No, we're good. So I say this every time to every guest, but we want this to feel like we're sitting on a couch, just kind of shooting it amongst each other. And not like a show where we pass the talking stick back and forth. So I appreciate the dynamic. So go ahead, cut in. What do you got?
I guess I do have a question to pose to you guys. So we just 30-balled Tennessee?
107-79.
Okay, so we just 30-balled Tennessee. That's hard to do. Young NBA prospect type of freak athletes don't tend to do that, especially against a Rick Barnes coach team. I think this year, as is obvious, we've added a lot of guys through the transfer portal who aren't necessarily the most outlandish NBA prospect, but they know damn well what they're doing on a college basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just want to know from y'all's point of view, like, is there a perfect medium you're supposed to have between those guys who are vets who will definitely be great players in college, maybe not so much in the NBA, or, as Cal's done a lot in the past, leaned on younger guys, not as experienced, but have those measurables, the physical ability that scales to the NBA level?
Well, I'll preface Jared's comments real quick with this. We learned, so we had Travis Branham on here last week, Bird, who is the college basketball analyst for 24/7 Sports now, and he said that Damian Collins is probably the best draft prospect on this team. Not this year, but ultimately with the highest ceiling. Yeah. I've heard that previously. I compared Damian to Marcus Lee in the past, just that, and he's frail, has a ways to go with his body, needs to get a more offensive game plan down, work on that interior offense and things, but obviously just put some meat on his bones. But a phenomenal athlete, very long and lanky. When I look at what like Ty and Oscar and those guys are doing, it really puts things in perspective as to how much the game has changed. So I'll go ahead and respond to Jordan, but I just wanted to preface it with that because your reaction, the face you made, is exactly how I looked at Travis. But he knows what he's talking about, and he's usually pretty right. He did not mean this season, but long-term highest ceiling is pretty remarkable, and alludes to the direction that the game's going.
Yeah. That's actually a great question. I'm going to first say that the Tennessee game was great for me because it was personal. That was the first game I ever started. And I say I ever started, but I think it might have been the actually only game I ever started at Kentucky.
At Tennessee?
At Tennessee. It was the game after Nerlens tore his ACL, and we got beat by
30.
The big 3-0. Yep. So it was great watching that game the other day.
Oh yeah.
That was personal revenge for me 8 years later, or I guess maybe 9 years later.
Do you remember Cal blaming the hoods on the warm-ups?
Did he blame the hoods?
I mean, he not really, but he was like, we're never wearing those hooded warm-ups again.
I'm just glad he didn't blame me for that. That was the only well, I guess Nerlens was a big.
You were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You were phenomenal.
Not having Nerlens LaMelo do it.
But to answer your question, I don't know what's the perfect mix of freshmen versus transfers. I think especially on the big man side, like there's something to say about having some experienced big men, whether they've been at UK for a few years or like an Oscar who's had college experience. Like it is hard to come in as a freshman. Like you got to be a freak like AD to succeed as a big man. Like I know there's always the few, but just getting time for your body to develop, like a Damian Collins who probably needs a couple of years. Like I think guards, it's a much easier transition as a freshman to play because you rely more on just your speed and athleticism, which you get that as a sophomore in high school. Yeah. Unless you're me and don't develop until junior year of college.
Same. I would say AD, though, to your point, is the exception to that rule for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's maybe one or two freshman big men every year. But even like AD struggled at the beginning. I remember we played Transy. Yeah. I always tell that story, and like he looked terrible. Yeah. And then obviously he turned out to be what he was. But I think there is a sense of like, I don't think you I think you do have to have some sort of veteran, and I'm not saying like you got to have people that stay 3 or 4 years, but I think Cal's seen like, hey, these transfers that are a little bit older and more experienced, they help, and then you combine that with a few, throwing a few 5-star freshmen. I think Cal is finding that good mix. I also think like the rotation in general. I know like Todd, you were on the platoon system. That's another theory of mine. Like, I think if you look at the championship teams of college, especially, one, you've got really good college players that not all of them turn out to be good pros, but they're great college players. But two, I think like the rotation's probably like 7 or 8 deep top.
Yeah.
You don't really see a ton of teams that like play 10, 11. And I call it the Olympic theory. Like whenever the USA basketball team, we put these all-stars together, what do we see at first? They like struggle pretty big time. I think, one, the ball is different. They always talk about the ball, but two, like when you have 10 other guys on your team that are great, and so that makes every time you shoot the ball, you're like, well, I'm not giving 4 of these other all-stars on my team a chance to shoot. Like that builds a little pressure, and you see that in the Olympics, and I think you see that a lot at UK, like especially the platoon system. So, my working theory is, I think 7, 8 guys is about top. You can play, big minutes in college, because it's going to build that camaraderie, especially when you're dealing with transfers and freshmen that have literally 1 year to figure it out. Which I think you've seen Cal this year. What does he play? 8 guys.
Yeah, 8 guys. That's what I was gonna follow your point up here. Yeah.
Some minutes, Damian a little bit, but I mean Dante hasn't played really at all in the past few games. So I think he's kind of seeing like you got to pick your guys almost and get in a rhythm. Maybe throw in some guys here and there, but that got to give them some rhythm to play in.
I second that point. That 2015 platoon system was a little bit unique in that. I mean, quite honestly, we were that much better than everybody though, and we literally had those assets that we could throw at people. And really, the platoon system was kind of changed a little bit in December or late November when Alex got hurt, because we really ended up with 9, and then we kind of started sliding Dom and Derek around a little bit to try to make room for people. But the platoon system worked uniquely with that team just because, I mean, we had 12 McDonald's All-Americans, and we could pretty much just run everybody to death. So our starters were better than 95% of the teams our second team was better than 95% of the team's other starters. So the philosophy was just kind of like, we'll 1-2 punch you literally repeatedly. I mean, I remember there was a game probably, pretty early in the year. I think it was UCLA actually. And we were up. Yeah,
the game where they scored 7 points.
7 points. Yeah, and we were and there was 4 minute at the under 4 minute timeout. I'm not exaggerating, Jared. Under 4 minute timeout. We go to the TV timeout, and no one is sweating. No one is sweating.
That's embarrassing.
And I'm like, because we're playing like the most competitive basketball in the Joe Kraft Center, not in Rupp, or in that case in I think it was Brooklyn. It just got to be where like we're used to, I mean, how grueling those practices can be and how competitive those teams are. And specifically with that lineup where we have a literal starting 5 going against a starting 5 every day was a full on war. And that was just a unique experience, but it was pretty much a one-off thing. It's not something that you're going to consistently try to put together. So to your point, I think 7 or 8 guys is the happy spot, especially with a Cal coach team. So against Tennessee, Oscar played 31 minutes. Keon Brooks played 23. Ty played 36. Severe played 28. Kellen Grady played 27. Next was Jacob Toppin and Davion Mintz with 21 and 15 respectively. Everybody else played. Lance Ware got 8 minutes. Bryce Hopkins got 4 minutes. Damian Collins got 3 minutes. That's pretty much it. The rest of the guys came in at the end.
Pretty much found his 7 guys at this point.
Correct. But the scoring, yes, but the scoring, we had Oscar and Keon both had 9. The other 3 starters all were in double digits with 28, 21, and 16. And then Davion gave us 10 off the bench, and everybody else, I mean, Jacob Toppin came in with 7. Point is it's a widespread stat sheet, and we're able to do that effectively. So they can't, no opposition, including a Rick Barnes team who is, so heavily defensive minded, can't really hone in on one particular avenue to stop us. Like, we're not going to beat you just by shooting threes. We're not going to beat you just by offensive rebounding. We're not going to beat you just by posting the ball up. And I think that is what is so difficult about a team like Kentucky to try to come in and beat us, whether it's at home or on the road. You have to prepare for so many different ways that we can play. If they're coming in and taking away, trying to muck up the offensive end with when Severe's trying to run the offense or something, maybe we go big, slide Ty to the one, bring in Kellen and Davion, or Kellen and Ty, and just kind of spread the floor a little bit with shooters, and then you still got Oscar in the paint who's able to stretch out a little bit. We just can play so dynamically different depending on the matchup. And I think that's one thing that Cal doesn't really get enough credit for. If a team is prepared to guard us in one way, we can come out and completely change it up most of the time because we have such a dynamically different roster and depth chart. For instance, we got Oscar Squebe on the same roster as Damian Collins. Jeez, I can always get his name mixed up. And then we can still throw Jacob Toppin and Lance Ware in there. We can still throw Bryce Hopkins in there. One thing that, since I just mentioned it, I want to mention real quick before we wrap it up with you. I've noticed that Lance Ware, Jacob Toppin, and Damian Collins or Bryce Hopkins are all in the game at the same time at some point. Like, I would never think that those guys would be out there together. And at some point, I always look up in the second half, and the three of them are out there together. And I'm like, none of them can dribble. Yeah. Like, why aren't we using one or two of them randomly? But we put all three of them out there, and then you realize, like, he's got half the starting lineup on the bench, which is fine. Rest those guys. But maybe substitute those two or three for each other rather than just stick them out there at once. Have you noticed that?
I have not actually noticed that. I always notice it when I'm watching the Lakers play. Yeah. And it's like a Kentucky thing. Old Vogel, putting, I guess Rondo used to be on, but like every time the Lakers had like four guys that couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
Like,
stick them all out there together.
It's not a Lakers podcast, but
that's all right.
Kentucky, but it's the same idea. Yeah.
I tried to tell everyone when that Russell Westbrook trade happened that it's just not going to work.
See, you barked up the Lakers tree with a Lakers fan over here. If you mention the Lakers or the Pats or the Celtics,
why would you call me a Lakers fan?
Because you're a Boston fan and then you're a Lakers fan. You're a LeBron lover. Don't tell me you're not. Whatever. Look into that camera and tell me you're not a LeBron lover.
I am not a LeBron James stan.
Whatever. All right.
I'm a LeBron James fan.
Oh, I know you are, but that's just because your game mimics his.
Yeah.
True. I do try to mimic LeBron
just a
James
freak of nature.
Play at 13 feet. That's my guy. Are you still playing pickup anywhere? Ever? I know you got daddy duty, but
I was. Yep. It's Levi, my son's 6 months old, and I haven't played basketball since he's been born. And that is by far the longest amount of time I've never picked up a ball since, I guess I was 4 years old. So I'm out of shape. I'm not playing. I'm officially old. I'm 30.
What? Yeah, same. One thing I've noticed though in my older age, the longer I go without picking up a ball, once you do, it's back to muscle memory. You won't miss a shot. Like you just won't. Not you.
Okay.
We need to get together though. Grab something to eat. Talk a little bit and watch a game together. But I appreciate you coming on. You want to leave him with anything?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna have you back on when you can come in person. The world's a little screwed up right now, but we'll be able to get back together soon. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you. You've always been a fantastic mentor and friend to me, and I appreciate you always being there. Thanks for bringing me in to the Kentucky boys that got to live out a dream in blue and white, man. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thank you all.
Right, thanks. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Let's stop and take a moment to tell you about our friends at Dwell. Their mission is to provide their customers with the highest quality CBD and CBD-infused products available while serving the community with a commitment and dedication to wellness for everyone. Dwell CBD is proud to present their newest signature series topical with UK legend Tyler Eulis. At Dwell CBD, they take skincare very seriously, and their partnership with Tyler is an exciting way to share the potential benefits of CBD and other natural ingredients that are shown to promote healthy skin, and reduced inflammation. This lavender-scented topical cream contains 500 milligrams of THC-free CBD and was designed for athletes just like Tyler. Get yours now by visiting dwellcbd.com and clicking on the sports tab. That's DWELLCBD.com. Proceeds benefit the Tyler Eulis Foundation.
Welcome back to Seat 14. Joining me now is CJ Holmes, who was originally gonna be on this podcast with me from the jump. Had some other work obligations that kind of got in the way a little bit, but CJ is part of the original Seat 14 walk-on frat crew, one of the founders, the OGs, if you will. I appreciate you, man. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Feels kind of full circle, right?
It does. It does. Cheers. We got a William Tarr sponsorship. I'll send you a bottle. Our local distillery here in town, RD1 Spirits, out of Harrisburg, Kentucky. Some fantastic juice right here. We'll have to get you a bottle sent out there. So CJ, who you just met, is a former Auburn Tiger, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Kentucky plays at Auburn on Saturday coming up. This episode, CJ, drops tomorrow, Tuesday. So we're a couple days ahead of that game. Both our teams have a game in between now and then. But we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a pregame talk about this. I want you to tell me, just a little bit about Auburn's season so far for our listeners who might not have gotten a chance to see them, as well as the highly touted number one big board topper right now.
I mean, down on the plains, it's been a season the likes of which Auburn fans have never seen on the basketball court. 16-1 right now, 5-0 in conference play, 8-1 versus quad 1 and quad 2 opponents. You think that would be enough to be ranked number one in the nation, but apparently the AP poll voters decided otherwise. So big one this weekend against Kentucky. Knock off the Kentucky Wildcats at home on Saturday, and maybe the voters will have a change of mind. But it's been a great year, man, and it kind of just all starts in the middle with the freshman Jabari Smith. The kid's been a revelation. Everyone thought he'd be good, right? These five-star guys usually come in and they contribute immediately. But, I don't think anyone thought that he'd be this good, this soon. It just seems like each game he's getting better and better, so much so that, he's now in the conversation to go number one in the NBA draft this year.
Yeah.
Between guys like Katie Johnson and you guys can edit this out.
No, go ahead. So okay. Here, let me go ahead and jump in real quick. So last week we had a good friend of mine, Travis Branham, who is the college basketball insider for 24/7 Sports, come on, and he just recently moved Jabari into the number one slot over Chet and Bancaro from Duke. And you want to speak a little bit, because this is Jordan's favorite topic, is NBA draft talk. I'll let him speak a little bit to why Travis decided to move him in there, but you need to go back and listen to the last week's episode ahead of this game, just because of the insight that Travis gives to what he's able to do on the floor that that is obviously so unique to this draft class, and really just record-setting performances. But go ahead.
Yeah, what I think a lot of what Travis sees and what a lot of guys have seen in Jabari, while Chet and Paolo might have the highest floor right now in terms of coming into the NBA and impacting a team immediately, just Jabari's ability to shoot off the dribble and off the catch is kind of you don't really see that in anyone not named Kevin Durant at that size. So it really is like, damn, dude, is this kid going to be a future MVP, or is he just going to be a solid player? And I think that's what scouts are having to deliberate on, and what has kind of propelled him into, at the very least, the top three discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. He's baby KD. Haven't seen anything like him in the college game since KD. He just plays with so much confidence for a freshman, and he's not in there coughing it up or turning it over. And, instead of, sitting in the wings and kind of letting the upperclassmen take charge, it's Jabari out there taking charge himself. I mean, overall, he's just a special talent. And it's the reason why Auburn's sitting at 16-1 right now.
Yeah, so Kentucky coming in there on Saturday. You're probably going to roll your eyes at this, but we as Kentucky fans always like to talk about how we're everybody's Super Bowl, and usually in years past, especially when the SEC isn't as highly touted as they are this year. I mean, now we got 5 teams in the top 25, or at least we did last week, I think.
Might have just knocked Tennessee out that hole.
Yeah, Tennessee should be out. They're not that good, obviously. But so Tennessee, I'll make this point to you real quick. Tennessee allowed 46 points from South Carolina last Tuesday. On Saturday, we gave them 107. They're a defensive-minded team in Rick Barnes. Auburn hasn't played Tennessee yet, right?
I don't think so. No.
I don't think they have. So, but just that my point is I originally thought the SEC was very, very top heavy, and the top 5 or 6 teams would maybe trade wins and losses, and then the bottom tier would kind of do their thing. Auburn obviously being up there in that top tier with Kentucky, but now we have a team in Auburn that is much, much better than they have been in years past. Tough place to play to begin with. And we have a good Kentucky team that struggled a couple times on the road coming into town on Saturday. Just, allude to a little bit what that atmosphere is going to be like, having played there and been in that environment more than one time.
First and foremost, don't be disrespectful. Talking about Auburn is better than in years past.
Hang on. Are you gonna sit here and tell me though that this team isn't better than that team was right now at this point in the season?
It's too early to tell.
At this point in the season.
Bryce Brown, Jared Harper, that was a special
I'm saying
team,
at this point in the season, is this Auburn team better than that team was?
Yes, probably at this point in the season, but in terms of like an entire body of work.
Yes, correct. Okay. See, you're getting real into he's getting real into his analytics and his writer's mentality here. All right, I will rephrase. At this point in the season, Auburn has had national success that they didn't have the respect at the time and during that season that they've earned now. And now you have a team in Kentucky that's, again, struggled on the road in certain instances against teams that don't necessarily play the same type of ball that we are. And Kentucky's coming into town in what will end up being one of the more highly touted matchups to this point in college basketball. And it's not something that I really circled on the schedule at the beginning of the year. I don't know about yourself. We didn't know what this Auburn team was going to look like, and we didn't know what this Kentucky team was going to look like. So I'm more than gassed up for this Saturday game to the point that you and I might need to find a mutual place to drive to and link up and watch this ball game together.
Clarksville, Tennessee. Shout out.
Oh, God. All right. So, just tell me a little bit about what you think that place is going to look like and feel like come Saturday evening.
Oh, it's going to be rocking. Like you said, it's going to have it's early in the year, but it's going to have a real Super Bowl big game feel to it. Mm-hmm. Auburn as a team and the fan base, they feel disrespected right now. The AP poll came out earlier this morning, and,
mm-hmm.
A lot of folks were disappointed because, they believe that Auburn is the best college basketball team
mm-hmm.
in the country. And, this weekend, against a really, really talented Kentucky team, they'll have a chance to prove that and validate themselves. And it's going to be rocking, man. When I think back to my playing days at Auburn, man, I remember games against South Carolina where we're playing in front of no one,
mm-hmm.
empty stadiums, no one's in there. You could hear a pin drop. And to see, where the fan base how the fan base has developed, the energy within the fan base has developed from then compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
It's day and night, man. I think Bruce Pearl did a great job, when he came in, really galvanizing the fan base and talking with the community and being seen and getting people to show up for games and support this team, to now the jungle is one of the most feared student sections in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not sure where Kentucky's played this season so far, but it's going to be a rocking atmosphere this Saturday in Auburn Arena, and they have to be ready to come here and play their best ball because it's not going to be easy.
Well, after I said Saturday evening, I realized that the game was earlier in the day than I thought it was. I went and checked. It's 1:00 Eastern time tip, and that I was thinking when I said it that it was a much later game in the day, but regardless, going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. This Saturday is going to be unbelievable across the sports world to begin with. We got a couple
peak sports time.
It is.
Now.
We got a couple big football games on Saturday as well. What is it? Packers who's the Packers?
Packers, Niners.
Niners, that's right. Yeah, they got speaking of San Francisco, you got San Francisco going to the frozen tundra in Green Bay. But obviously our focus here is this basketball game. And, Auburn's always been a tough place to play. I go back to when we traveled down there to you guys,
has it though?
Yes.
Like, has it really always been a tough place
I'm saying
to play?
the fans are right on top of you. They're passionate. To be fair, you mentioned like Auburn, South Carolina. Like I didn't see any of those games or experience that. But when we came to town, your all's fans wanted to beat us and vice versa. And it made for a fantastic atmosphere to begin with. Now we got a situation where, Auburn's number 2 in the country, Kentucky's number 12. I don't really buy into what the AP says at this point in the season. I really never do. But this feels like a potential Elite Eight type matchup. And it's happening at 1:00 on Saturday in early or mid-January. Again, there's the leading rebounder in the country, and Oscar Schwebe, coming in and facing off against Jabari, who's the number 1 on the big board right now. This game is going to be absolutely phenomenal from tip to triple zeros, and I honestly am not really sure what to expect. The fight between the veteran players that are going to be on both squads, the fight between the coaching staffs who've had a long-standing relationship, going back to programs of the past. This is going to be a phenomenal game from beginning to end, and I really just can't wait to break down analytically coming up in the pregame show and stuff. I might actually have you call in if you're free to the pregame show on Saturday morning. But I'm more than hyped for this. I'm actually kind of upset that we have to put this podcast out on Tuesday because I want the hype and everything to build up before we're able to release it. So we might even come back on and do another segment before Saturday just to kind of feel out the pulse of the way that this is being talked about. But I can't remember being this hyped up for a game in a long time, and that's coming off of a last Saturday game, where we had the Volunteers in town and ended up 30-piecing them. But I'm containing myself right now because we got 5 days to wait still. But this is going to be one hell of a game.
Oh yeah, man. It's gonna be a battle of Goliaths, man, especially down in the post. I mean, you got a guy like Oscar Schwebe, who's not only 4th in the conference in points per game, he's 1st in field goal percentage, 1st in rebounds per game, and I think like 5th in blocks. Mm-hmm. How is he going to be able to adjust to playing against, Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler, who leads the conference in blocks? And then you got a guy like Devin Cambridge who brings energy off the bench, makes it tough for opposing bigs to score. And then the backcourt battle, should be interesting. I know that Ty Washington's been playing really good as of late, but, how's a freshman coming into that Auburn Arena environment going to handle that ball pressure from guys like Zep Jasper and, Alan Flanagan and what's his name? Green, Wendell Green. I mean, it's going to be an all-out war, man, and it's going to be crazy to see how it could play out. Rankings, you can throw them out the window in a game like this.
100%.
It can go either way. Yeah,
I'm ecstatic. And piggybacking your point, we have a veteran point guard at Kentucky for the first time in a long time, in Severe Wheeler, who transferred from Georgia. We have older experience in the locker room that we're not used to having. Oscar Schwebe transferred from West Virginia. Kellen Grady coming off 2,000-point career at Davidson. And those guys are kind of able to take a little bit of the pressure off of Ty. We talked about that in a segment right before you came on, so I won't go more into depth on that. But the bottom line is this Kentucky team is a lot more widespread across the depth chart than we're even used to seeing. We got guys not averaging double digits that are in the starting lineup, but we're pretty, game in and game out. There's 3 or 4 guys in the starting lineup that are all in double digits, and then double-digit performances in assists and rebounds from multiple guys across the roster. Double-doubles just coming out. We haven't seen this where it's not coming from one guy or 2 guys in a long time at Kentucky. So that's an experience that we're getting used to because we got guys like Ty Washington, who was a hugely, highly touted freshman, who's able to really just come out and just ball and not really have to worry about the weight of the world being on his shoulders. I know you wanted to jet in here. What you got?
Well, it's you talking about the whole Ty having to come in and not feel any pressure. I think that's something very unique to Kentucky that we expect freshmen to come in with a tremendous sense of pressure, because we've discussed how Cal's going to mold you to what he sees fit. He's going to put you in your roles. I'm curious, CJ, what you think Bruce Pearl's style of very hands off, let these players go make their plays and feel the game out for themselves. Which do you value more? What do you see there? Just take us through it.
Oh yeah, Auburn, it's a completely free flowing offense. A lot of ball screens. They like to get the big freshmen in a lot of isolation situations, which is something, you've seen in the past with a couple of these other lottery talents at the forward position that Auburn's produced in recent years. But overall, these guys are out here balling and making plays. I mean, you see the freedom that Pearl gives to a guy like Wendell Green to pull up from half court if he's feeling it. Now sometimes it comes back and bites the team in the ass a little bit, but these guys are given, everyone has the green light. Everyone is encouraged to play with supreme confidence. That's what makes this Auburn team so good. Not to mention there's elite athletes all over the course. These guys are running, they're gunning, they're throwing lobs. They shoot the three ball at a high clip, and overall it just makes them a really, really dangerous offensive team to have to deal with. Yeah,
I'm going to make one more point, and I'm being a little bit repetitive, but I feel like I need to say it to you as well. So we got a guy in Oscar Schwebe who's I'm going to run this down real quick for you. He's leading the country in total rebounds per game, offensive rebounds. He's fifth in defensive rebounds, total rebound percentage number 1, offensive rebound percentage number 1, defensive rebound percentage number 1, third in win shares per 40 minutes, which is obviously the value an individual can contribute to any given win. Just absolutely remarkable. What that does for us that we're not used to being able to do is we can spread the floor, take jump shots, and there's a 25% chance we're going to get the ball back. To have that kind of in the back of your mind as a shooter when you go to pull up, you'd have had to put my arm in a sling. So it just does a lot for our offense to be a little bit more free flowing than even we're used to. Where most everything, we call it the dribble drive, but a lot of things have to go through. We go through our process before we get a good look at the basket. In this particular offense, things have been able to be a little bit more dynamically different. It's been a blast to watch this team. So these two squads clashing heads on Saturday is going to be unbelievable. I'm going to be up at 6:30 drinking coffee, getting hyped up for this game. I'm going to definitely have to give you a call that morning, and we'll do a little segment we can release on some social media stuff before that game. Do you want to get one more thing in there?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of shift. This game's going to be awesome, really exciting. I'm going to shift beyond that. I want to talk about your writing career, CJ, give you a spotlight, allow you to, shout out your platform, and also as a fellow journalism major myself, I'm not sure if you majored in it, but as a journalism major, I'm just curious, you were an athlete. Was writing something you always knew you had a passion for, or did you find that somewhere along the line in your playing career?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was always a passion. I remember sitting in my coach's office, when I first found out I had the opportunity to walk on at Auburn. I'm sitting in my coach's office, filling out paperwork, doing different things online, filling out that online application to get into school. And, that little bubble pops up, that little prompt, what do you want to major in?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. This is back when I still had unrealistic hoop dreams of walking on at Auburn and working my way into the starting lineup, averaging 20 and 10, getting drafted second round, all that stuff. I knew shortly after my first practice that would not be happening. But back to the story with me and Coach. I'm sitting in the office and I'm just like, hey, I really have no idea what I want to do. He's like, well, what do you like? And I was like, I like reading and writing. I did always have a passion for reading and writing, but not necessarily in a journalistic sense, more like in I don't want to say poetry, but I always enjoyed the writing assignments in class, writing essays, doing research, things of that nature. So next day or a couple days later when I came in for practice, Coach gave me a book called Don't Put Me in, Coach by Mark Titus. And shout out to Mark, man. Shout out to Mark the Shark. But just reading how Mark was able to take his experiences as a walk-on and, brand himself and, become a fan favorite, and how he spun that out into a writing career with Grantland and later ESPN. And now he has his own, podcast, and currently has his podcast with Tate Frazier over at Fox Sports. And I just thought that was so cool. And that's something I wanted for myself. So that's really what convinced me that, I wanted to be a journalism major. And, got to Auburn, knocked out my core classes freshman year, sophomore year, started writing at the school paper. That turned into, multiple internships. Internships eventually turned into a job opportunity at the Dallas Morning News. A year later, I signed on with The Athletic and been writing for them ever since. I've been bouncing around the country, a bunch of different beats over the years, and right now I'm doing some NBA features and news writing. But it's been a fun journey, man, and they say you can't get to the end until you've been changed by the journey, and the journalism has definitely changed me a lot for the better.
Yeah, you're the man. I'm glad you transitioned into that because I wanted to end it with this too. CJ did a piece on me after I finished my senior year.
Till this day, one of my favorite pieces. It was, I got a lifelong friend out of it too.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but what he did for me, still gives me chill bumps when I read it, and I'll post it in the show notes when we post this. But it was basically my story, that he told from my perspective, essentially on what it's like being a walk-on at a program, a major program, and it was when you were with the Sporting News. Just a phenomenally well-written piece, but it really, I've never even told you this, I don't think, but it really gave me the opportunity to kind of reflect on what that experience meant to me and how it shaped me. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate what you did and the way that you brought my words to life. It's you have a remarkable talent at what you do, and I had to call CJ when this opportunity for the podcast came along, because him and I have kind of been in this together from a long time ago. And, I was like, are you okay with me using the name Seat 14? Because, he was as big a part of it as anybody. And he was like, do it. Let's give us the voice that we need to kind of bring the walk-on frat, to the spotlight. So that's kind of what this goal will be as we continue to advance it. I would love for the Seat 14 thing to grow to where we can represent multiple different schools together. But CJ laid the groundwork for, through his journalism and his ability to share the word of all these guys that have come before him and helped shape, not only this industry, but individually, we've become not only CJ and I, but the other OGs that helped start this whole group, and we've become so close. We haven't even met. How many of them have you met at this point? There's like 14 of us in that original group message. I think I've met like
every
6
Final
of them.
Four, I get to meet a couple of them, a couple dudes.
And but we're best friends. I mean, to the point that we text every day and know what's going on in everybody's lives, and it's a unique fellowship that we've developed, and a lot of that is credit to CJ and the way that he's handled himself. And it's a pleasure to call you a friend, man.
Hey man, you're making me tear up over here, man.
You're family now at this point, and you still won't come down here and visit me.
Hey, I'll be out there eventually, man. Hey man, I drive a lease, and the miles are tight, boys. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking a moment. I mean what I said, though. I want to get you back on, even if we put an episode out once a week usually, but we're trying to figure, kind of grow with the times with the social media. So we'll probably put a reel out. I'll get you back on. We'll do a little reel for social media to preface this game again before Saturday. But it's a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again. We'll book a trip coming up here shortly. All right.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks. All right, I love you, man. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you too, man.
All right, bye. See you, bud. That's it for that segment. We're going to come back and wrap things up. Looking forward to the next couple of days of college basketball, and we're going to hear from one of our sponsors. We got Liquid IV coming up, and then we'll be right back. We want to take a moment to tell you about our friends over at Liquid IV. Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier is a great tasting daily electrolyte drink mix that utilizes the breakthrough science of cellular transport technology to deliver hydration to the bloodstream faster and more efficiently than water alone. Just add the electrolyte powder to your water and let CTT do the rest. With 3 times the electrolytes of sports drinks, as well as 5 essential vitamins, Liquid IV comes in convenient, travel-friendly, single-serving packets. It is non-GMO with no artificial ingredients and comes in 8 delicious flavors, including lemon lime, pina colada, watermelon, passion fruit, guava, acai berry, apple pie, and my personal favorite, strawberry. So head on over to liquidiv.com, that's liquid-iv.com, and plug in code SEAT14 at checkout to enjoy 25% off of your order. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures. All All right, I just froze for a second.
You did good, bud. You did good. Not
all right. We're back. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. That was a phenomenal episode. Two very important guests to me. Jarrod welcomed me with open arms when I first got to Kentucky. Kind of showed me the ropes. After having spent a season here before I got here, was just kind of a huge mentor to me. Phenomenal human being.
These episodes are getting pretty dang and good.
They are, but Jarrod was. He used his platform for good in a lot of ways, and just a phenomenal human being that just spread a lot of love and great guy. And then CJ's become a great friend of mine over the last few years. As we've kind of dealt with learning who we are after basketball and stuff together. It's been
we planned for only 10 minutes with CJ, and then we both looked over and we were like 23 minutes in.
Yeah, I apologize ahead of time for the editing you're going to have to handle after this, but you're getting pretty seamless at it. You're doing a phenomenal job as well. Yep. So we had a good team around us. All of our guests being able to work with us as we deal with COVID and in particular. The inclement weather tonight with the snowstorm and stuff in Kentucky here.
I was out, my Ford Ranger, my 03 Ranger. I was out getting sideways in that thing last night.
You say like you went out to get sideways?
Yeah,
though. Yeah. Okay, let's clarify.
That.
Yeah, let's clarify.
Oh, I wasn't out for any other reason than to get sideways in the Ranger.
Let's start using that phrase. Let's get sideways. Don't drink too much RD1 spirits, William Tarr. You'll get sideways.
Fair enough.
All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So we got 1 o'clock game Saturday against Auburn, but before that, Wednesday night game against Texas A&M. You got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just don't fall asleep, man. Don't take this game for granted because we all know Auburn's, in my opinion and many other opinions, the best team in the country, the most terrifying player in the country. So just don't play with your food here in Texas. Yeah. Do you have any experiences of that, like where you?
Oh yeah,
where you were on a team and you were looking forward to a game?
So I'll leave us with this. My senior year, 2015 year, we're undefeated. The last game of the year, we're hosting Florida at home. But the game prior to that, we're on the road at Georgia. Georgia was not a very good team that year. They had what's his name played for the Lakers.
I'm gonna need more than that, buddy. I'm gonna need more.
I'm drawing a blank. Give me 1 second. Talk about something for a second while I find him real quick.
Dude, you can't just.
I got to. I can't look like an idiot and not remember this kid's name.
I want to say we talked with CJ about the whole like voting thing, like how AP voters are not favoring Auburn for some reason. Yeah. Well, these are the same guys that apparently voted for Georgia at some point. So
that's 100%. We had a whole thing about that when Georgia was they got like 21 votes or something. I don't even remember something absurd.
Who's the guy?
Contavious Caldwell Pope.
KCP.
So when KCP was at Georgia, I believe it was that year. We went on the road down there and got down like 7 points with like 3 minutes left or something. Almost lost.
This was the 38-1.
38-1 team. Almost lost. And it was the night before the game prior to what would have been the last home game to finish the undefeated season at 32-0. And my senior night start was at risk. Obviously, if we had lost to Georgia, they weren't going to come out and start me on senior night against Florida. So that was one time that we were kind of asleep at the wheel, coasting, looking to, I don't want to say we were looking ahead, but we were a little bit, we needed to stay a little bit more in the moment because obviously we were, ready for that, get that last 2 games through and then advance into the SEC tournament and get ready for playoff basketball. So that's one time I can kind of allude to that a little bit. But this is a much different situation. We're talking mid-January. This Texas A&M team is not that great. It is a weird place to play on the road, though. One of the more frustrating fan bases with their accolades that they go into.
They're male cheerleaders and overalls.
It's a lot. It can be distracting. Shout out Alex Caruso. They were a tough place to play back when we were there. So get on the road, Texas A&M, long flight out there, long flight back. And then we're at Auburn on Saturday for an early tip-off game against one of the best teams in the country. Probably should have been the number 1 vote over Gonzaga this week, with obviously the biggest threat in the paint. That Oscar matchup is going to be phenomenal down there. So we're really looking forward to that. Go ahead.
Well, Jabari isn't just honestly where he does most of his work isn't in the paint.
Correct. Just he's Oscar's hasn't really been matched up, I guess.
Someone who can take him out there.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be a interesting matchup. Not one-on-one. I mean, like the 5-on-5 dynamic of how we play them defensively. Are we going to switch? Are we going to hedge? Are we going to ice? The way that we play that is going to be awesome to watch. I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm going to hope to try to go down and catch a practice prior to their flying out down to Auburn when they get back from College Station. So I'm really looking forward to this week, this Saturday. This whole weekend is going to be a phenomenal sports weekend, one of the best of the year. So we're really excited about that. And like I've said a couple times, we're going to try to get CJ back for just a small segment to release a little special piece before this game, because it's going to be such a cool one to watch and witness and get a little bit more insight as we have the ability to with guys like CJ to come in and give some insight. So thank you for listening. This is another episode of Seat 14 presented by the Field of 68, Bet River Sportsbook, RD1 Spirits, William Tar Bourbon, Liquid IV, and...
Were you just going off the dome just now?
I was.
Really?
I was.
Good job.
Thank you.
Hit me that again.
And?
I wake up in the morning and I piss excellence.
Oh, come on, Anchorman. That's cakewalk, baby.
That's
cakewalk.
That's Talladega Nights, Todd.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. I'm the best there is, plain and simple.
Damn it,
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
It is. I was looking at Will Ferrell in my head and I said, you're right.
Man.
Okay, well, I'm gonna
better.
hang on. Let me flip the script. Then obviously you know the movie, but I'm picturing the moment where he's in the robe out at the pool. Yeah. He's like, I have many leather-bound books.
Yeah.
So apologies for the misquote. Phenomenal actor. Probably one of the most quotable actors between Talladega Nights, Anchorman, and Wedding Crashers. It doesn't get much better. Step Brothers too. It doesn't get much better than Will Ferrell. Thank you for listening, Seat 14. We will see you a little bit before next week's episode if we come back with that small segment. But either way, thank you for joining. We'll catch you next week.